Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Lawrence Michael, Operations Manager for Air Quality Remediation. Making a typical first day remediation walkthrough of a new project we have going on. This job is a little atypical. As always, those of you that watch our remediation and restoration videos, we usually do a first day walkthrough and I show you guys what's going on, what the project entails, what we need to do for the remediation to have it done completely and correctly. And then we do a last day remediation video of everything that was done and showing the finished product and things like that. This project is atypical because typically there's an area of concern, there's a primary affected area, and it's usually a basement, a crawl space, an attic, it could be a kitchen or a bathroom depending on where the water incursion issue originated from. There is an issue in the basement. There is remediation that's needed in the basement. Now, it's atypical because not only do we have to do a remediation in the basement, we have to decontaminate the entire house. That's decontaminate the first floor, the second floor, and both air conditioning units. So it's a dual zone system. So there's a unit in the basement and then a unit in the attic that services the first and second floor. I've touched on dual zone systems in the past. So the reason we have to do that, this whole decontamination process, is because, and those of you that have watched our previous videos can probably guess, I harp on it all the time. When remediation services are done incorrectly or incompletely, it ends up doing more damage. So with remediation, with mold, lead, asbestos, silica dust, whatever the contaminant is, if you don't know what you're doing or you're not gonna do it right, then just leave it alone. Don't touch it. You're just gonna make it 10 times worse. When you mess with these indoor air quality, contaminants, and you don't know what you're doing and you're not gonna do it correctly, it just exacerbates the problem. It just makes everything 10 times worse. So, the backstory is homeowners just purchased this house. They just were trying to move in and they were in the process of moving their stuff in, and a neighbor, a diligent neighbor who was, doing the right thing, came up to him and said, hey, I'm glad you guys are moving in. This house has been vacant for a long time being a number of years. I'm glad you guys are moving in, but did they get the mold issue fixed in the basement? And the homeowner said, what mold issue? And so they started looking into everything and found out that they had a mold issue in the basement. It wasn't disclosed to them. They had no idea about it. Typically, now I'm not a real estate attorney, so I don't want to say, I'm an expert in this because I'm certainly not, but I've read a number of disclosure forms and I have conversations and relationships with real estate attorneys. And on a disclosure form here in Delaware, and I believe all other states are pretty similar, there's 2 questions on a disclosure form that pertain to mold, and it's, is there mold in the house, and has there ever been a mold test done in the house? Obviously, these sellers said no, that there isn't a mold issue in the house, and no, there's never been a mold test done in the house. Well, that was either incorrect or an outright lie. There was definitely mold in the basement. They knew that there was mold in the basement because they had some contractor, not a remediation company, some contractor come in, demo a bunch of mold-affected drywall in the basement with no containment, no negative air pressure, no PPE, walking in and out of the house throughout the first and second floors. So long story short, when the neighbors told these new homeowners about this issue, they had a home inspector come in, do an air sample test, found that there was mold in the basement and on the first floor and on the second floor. Not only did they find that the mold spore counts were elevated in the basement, first floor and second floor compared to outside, they also found that there was Stachybotrys spores. I've touched on Stachybotrys again in the past for those of you that have watched the videos. Stachybotrys is definitely a type of mold that is taken a lot more serious than other types of mold in the industry. When people refer to the quote-unquote black mold, that's what they're referring to as Stachybotrys. Stachybotrys affects neurological functions, where other types of molds typically affect respiratory functions. And there's definitely a correlated causal effect on different types of people that are exposed to Stachybotrys versus other types of mold, Aspergillus penicillium, Basidiospores, Cladosporium, different things like that. So whenever we see Stachybotrys spores, the level of concern is definitely elevated, along with the fact that these homeowners have a young child, pre-existing conditions, elderly and children are even more susceptible to having exacerbated symptoms or just more symptoms rather than a middle-aged healthy person with a healthy immune system would be. So it's definitely more serious because of the type of person that's going to be in the house, the child, and then the type of mold that they found in the air sample test being the Stachybotrys. So now we have to go through, not only do the remediation in the basement, we have to decontaminate the entire house, clean both air conditioning units, all the ductwork, all the vents, just to get the house back to a safe and healthy living environment, which should have never been the case, because if there was a mold issue in the basement, it should have been isolated to the basement, and the rest of the house shouldn't be affected at all. But as I've stated in a number of videos in the past, when things aren't done correctly and they're not done completely, this is exactly what happens. It always makes it 10 times worse, and you end up with so much more work and such a much higher bill to do the remediation because it just wasn't done correctly. So I'll get off my soapbox. This is the first floor. We have one HEPA 1000 air scrubber set up here in the living room. We have a HEPA 500 set up on the second floor, and then we have a HEPA 1500 down in the basement to create negative air pressure. Now, typically, again, those of you that have watched our videos in the past know that we always start with the primary affected area first, the impacted area first, and then work our way out. So in this case, that would be the basement is your primary point of concern because that's where the water incursion originated. We would remediate the basement and then work our way through the first and second floors to do the decontamination process. Because the homeowners already sold their old house and are trying to move into this house because they had no idea that they were going to run into this type of issue, they're now in between houses and can't move in here because of the extensive work that needs to be done here. So we have to decontaminate the first and second floors, do the air conditioning unit up in the attic for the dual zone system, and then go into the basement. Reason being is so that painters can come in and paint the first and second floors while we're working down in the basement. That won't be an issue. As always, we build our containment and we establish negative air pressure in the basement, so that will eliminate any cross-contamination from the spores in the basement from going upstairs into the rest of the house. So we can decontaminate the first and second floors and just leave the basement under negative air pressure, so that way nothing in the basement gets into the otherwise decontaminated area at that point. So I'll walk you guys through the basement, show you what's going on down there, show you how they tried to cover up this issue, and then I want to show you guys up on the second floor, not only issues that we found in the ductwork, but then show you how you may not notice something without the eye. We look at it all the time. I was able to pick up on this pretty quick, but I'll show you guys what we look for cross-contamination issues. So let's go check out the basement first. So here in the basement, we have our containment door built, so we isolate the basement from the rest of the house. As always, warning signage, caution tape, under negative pressure. It's gonna be hard to do this zipper with one hand, but let's see if we can do it. So we definitely have a good amount of negative air pressure. This is definitely getting sucked in. Close our zipper up. So now we're going down into the basement. And here we have our HEPA 1500 air scrubber ducted out of the window to create our negative air pressure. So over here behind me, and as well, we have this window open to have our makeup air. One of our last videos was about air scrubbers, figuring out how many CFMs and how many air scrubbers you need, and makeup air and air changes per hour and things like that. So if you have any questions about why the window's open or how to figure out that equation, definitely check that video out. So behind me, we see some drywall. This drywall looks fine. I don't see any mold on this drywall. But the problem is, the drywall here had mold growth on it. It was all the way, halfway up the wall here, based on a picture that the neighbor took from outside this exterior basement door. So the neighbor stood at this door on the outside, took a picture of this wall with mold all on it. Well, when the new homeowners came to buy the house, they don't see any mold. The drywall looks new. The reason is because they had a company, not a remediation company, just some contractor, I guess, come in, cut out that mold affected drywall, chuck it outside, and put up new drywall. Well, they had no containment, no negative air pressure, no PPE, didn't treat the studs behind the drywall, didn't do any decontaminating at all. So let's see. So on the finished side here, we can see that they put up all new drywall over here. So let's go down here. So we see right here, this is mold here on the back side of this drywall because they never replaced this drywall, so they missed that. But then we look at these studs that the new drywall attaches to, and there's mold and evidence of water incursion on these studs. So I know that they cut out this drywall, just put up new drywall, didn't treat any of these studs. I can see it back here too. So again, this is mold right here on this drywall that they didn't replace. And mold here, mold here, mold here. And it runs all the way down. Let's see, I'm trying to get you guys a look here. This is mold on this stud. Mold on this drywall. And it's really hard to get you guys a look here with the flashlight. Mold on this drywall. Mold on drywall farther down. Definitely on this stud. My finger's all in the way, isn't it? I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to get you a good look here, but it's hard messing with a flashlight and a phone and trying to move stuff out of the way. I'm sorry if you guys couldn't see that. Then here, we have mold on all these joists. Mold here. Mold here. Here. It runs all the way down on the joists, all the way down. And then we have a unit in here. So this unit needs to be decontaminated. And let's see. Definitely on these joists here. All the way down. So what that tells me is that all they did was come in, cut out the drywall, not actually do anything with the studs, not actually decontaminate anything, which is typical because they weren't a mold remediation company. They were just a contracting company that was contracted to come in and cut out this drywall as quick as possible, as cheap as possible, to prevent anybody, a new homeowner, from seeing there was an issue, which is shysty and unethical and illegal. So now I want to show you, let's look at this vent here, because this vent is really bad. So that's a return vent for one of the units. So now we're back on the first floor, and I want to go up on the second floor and show you guys what else we found. So now we're going up to the second floor. One other thing that the previous homeowners said they had done before they moved out was that they had the ductwork cleaned and the air conditioning unit cleaned. Okay. So here's a HEPA 500. It's up here on the second floor. That HEPA 500 is going to discharge. So it sucks air in, gets filtered out, discharges from here, and it's getting discharged down over this ledge, which is where the HEPA 1000 is sitting. So everything that's getting discharged from the HEPA 500 goes into the intake of the HEPA 1000, and then the HEPA 1000 discharges out to this corner, which then has airflow that circulates around and goes back through. So we're trying to create airflow so that way we get rid of everything. So, like I said, the previous homeowner said that they just had the ductwork cleaned. Well, this is inside one of the return vents up on the second floor. And there's a big clump of something there. There's mold growth here. And there's a ton of dust and dirt and debris inside this system. I don't know how well you guys can see that on video, but that definitely looks pretty dirty and terrible. And definitely wasn't just clean, that's for sure. So, last thing I want to show you guys, I know this video's ran long. Looking at this wall, it looks like just a white wall up in a bedroom on the second floor. But if we look at this, so one of my guys started vacuuming one section, and once he started vacuuming, he could see that there was a difference between areas that was vacuumed and areas that wasn't. Now, typically, a HEPA vacuum that you're vacuuming a surface, it does remove those spores, particles, dust fragments, all those things. That's its job. But it's usually not built up so much that you can visually see a difference on a vertical surface. On a horizontal surface, obviously gravity has things that settle down. So on a horizontal surface, usually a lot of dust and dirt and things like that do build up. So when you vacuum or wipe across the surface like that, you can see what's been cleaned and what hasn't, because there's a large amount that's, landed on that horizontal surface and built up. But on vertical surfaces, you really don't see that because gravity brings everything down. It usually just slides right down and then lands on the floor, the baseboards, or something like that. But I want to see if you guys can see. I don't know if you guys can make this out or not. I can't tell. On this wall, you can see, with my naked eye anyway, I can see where our technician went through and vacuumed, and where it hasn't been vacuumed. I don't know if you can see that on video or not. I hope you can make it out on video. I don't know if you can. Yeah, I think you can see that right there. See how he swept across with the vacuum? So then this area here wasn't vacuumed, was vacuumed, and then wasn't vacuumed here. I hope you guys can make that out on the video because it's really prevalent to the naked eye here. So obviously if you weren't looking for that, obviously if you didn't have a flashlight and it wasn't something that you were had the eye for, you probably wouldn't see it, you wouldn't miss it because it's not expected for the typical homeowner to be an indoor air quality expert. That's why people call the experts. So I'll close this video out. We have to go through, like I said, decontaminate the entire house, do both air conditioning units, then do the actual remediation in the basement. We'll get everything taken care of. We will do post-remediation air sample testing when we're done, just to confirm everything is out of the first, second, and basement floors. We'll make sure that there's no Stachybotrys spores. Everything's a safe and healthy level for the husband and wife and their child, so all the homeowners together. We'll make sure everything's decontaminated and ready to go. I will do a post-remediation video of everything so you guys can see what everything looks like when it's done. As always, if anybody has any questions, any indoor air quality concerns, definitely give us a call. Check us out on all of our other social media platforms. If anybody has any questions or anybody has any videos that they want to see, definitely put them down in the comments below. As always, I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next video.